This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat, Brad Gilmore.
All right, welcome back to the show. We have three of the most important people to deal with this show, I will say. Kwame, Kimberly, and Damani all join us, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Kwame, I'm going to start with you. We're talking about the crossover, the new show on Disney Plus, of course. You had a lot to do with this story, obviously, publishing this book nearly a decade ago. You've lived with these characters for so long. Did the vision you have in the pages of your novel, did they come to life for you? Did the characters feel like they did when you were writing them, when you saw the series and started working on this project?
Absolutely. Hands down. When I wrote the book, Brad, I would have these poems because the novel is told in poems. It's a novel in verse. I'd have these poems that were basketball poems. And so the words were visually like they would get bigger. Or if I had a word like sliding, the words would slide down the page. So visually the words looked like they sounded. And so how do you translate that on the screen? And so, of course, we had Daveed Diggs, who was our narrator for the show. And a lot of his narration is very poetic, is very rhythmic. And I tell you, he made those words slide down the page, or he made them bigger just by his voice. So I feel like we got it. We got everything we need. And a big testament to that is because of, the screenwriters who helped me understand this business, Damani and Kim.
Yeah, and I want to go to Kim. What about this story when you were reading the novel that Kwame put together and tried to adapt it for the screen? What challenges did you find? Did you have any particular ones that you had to try to figure out based on the format that his book was written on?
Yeah, I mean, it was the poetry. I mean, that is the heartbeat of this whole show. And to find the way to kind of marry that to, a scene or, find the place for that to go. For me, that was really challenging, but it was also, a learning lesson for me. Like I've learned from that. And so, yeah, I would say that was the biggest challenge was the poetry.
And Damani, going to you, why do you think this story needs to be told and to be seen by so many people on Disney Plus?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a universally relatable story about growing up. And there's something in there for everybody. The crossover has it for moms, dads, kids, whoever is watching this. There's something that you can attach to. And, there's a lot of cynicism in the world at this point. And then there's something like the crossover, which is full of hope and inspiration and joy. We hope that it has it all.
It really does. I've watched the show. It's such a fun show to watch. I mean, it's an easy watch, and it's really interestingly shot. I love the camera choices and how the story's laid out. Kwame, I'm also a nerd when it comes to knowing why things are the way that they are and knowing where names come from, especially. The crossover, we all know what a crossover is in basketball. Why was, though, the crossover the perfect title for the novel and the show?
Well, without spoiling things
too much, yes.
I visit a lot of schools and students always ask me, why'd you choose the title, The Crossover? And I'll tell them it's 5 different reasons why I chose it. Well, one of the reasons is because Allen Iverson perfected the crossover. It became this thing. It's a basketball move. Another reason is these 2 boys are crossing over from boys into young adulthood. So there are numerous sort of layers, which I think is one of the things that we struggled with. And I think we were able to overcome it. How do we layer basketball with poetry, with coming of age, with this sort of story and create this one thing? And I think poetry is the right metaphor because it takes these really big, heavy, weighty things and it makes them palatable, it makes them digestible, and it makes us ultimately feel something. And I hope y'all feel something when y'all watch the show.
They definitely will. Now, there's a lot of goat talk in the show, so I'd be remiss if I didn't go around and get everyone's personal goat, because I'm an H-Town representative, so I'm Hakeem Olajuwon, of course. But Kim, who's your goat? Give me your goat, and then Damani and Kwame.
Magic Johnson.
You got to go. You can't go wrong with Magic. Damani?
I mean, I think I gotta say LeBron right now. Like, I don't want to get Magic. Goat A, goat B. Yes.
There you go. And Kwame?
LeBron is the GOAT of our show because not only because of what he does on the court, but what he does off the court. My personal GOAT is my dad, who was a basketball star in college and in the Air Force. And I wrote this book. He was the impetus as a love letter to him after seeing his scrapbook with all of his dunk pictures and everything. This was sort of my way of sort of showing the relationship that I hoped we would have.
Well, thank y'all all for the time. The show is excellent. The crossover on Disney Plus. Thank you all so much for joining me.